Good morning. So, since I got a room full of teachers and pastors in training, what would you say is the most important thing for a kid to learn in school? What do you think is the most important skill? And you can't say Jesus or something like that. What's the actual kind of learning skill that you think is most important for kids? Go. What do you think? What's that? What was that? Sharing. Hey, that's a good one. Sharing, right? Cooperation, working together. What else? That's a very Canadian answer. Good. What else? Communication. Communication would be fantastic, a great skill. So we've got sharing, we've got communication. Reading, that's probably not a bad one, right? Reading, writing, math skills, something like that. If our parents were in the room, they'd probably say respect, right? Or something like that you'd learn in school. The school that my kid goes to, I've got a 7-year-old, he goes to a French immersion public school down the road from us. And they've got this giant mural, I guess, that they're working on. I haven't seen the mural yet myself, but my wife, Christine, she's been telling me about it. And this is the theme of the mural: non-biased acceptance and diversity. Which is, if there's no agenda behind that, that's something we could get behind, I guess. But Christine just says to me, wouldn't it just be nice if it's maybe one on the joy of learning, right, or something like that? Albert Einstein said that the most important skill is imagination. That far more important than knowledge is imagination. So why would he say that? Well, the type of imagination that he's talking about is not the type of imagination to pretend that something is there when it's really not. Instead, the type of imagination that he was talking about was the ability to picture and to know that something is there even if you can't see it. And we can understand why this would be very important for scientists. The idea of being able to picture the world of laws and principles and things like that around us, gravity, these things that you can't see with your eyes. In fact, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Frank Wilczek, he described the work that he does is more like imaginative play than anything else. And so here's my follow-up question. What's the most important skill for an evangelist? And I'm going to argue that it's imagination. And again, the imagination that we're talking about is not to pretend that something is there when it's really not. Instead, the type of imagination we're talking about is the imagination, the ability to see and to know what might not be quite so evident to our eyes and to our senses. And in fact, there's a book of the Bible that's about losing this imagination, and that book is the book of Ecclesiastes. I say Ecclesiastes, you say meaningless, right? Everything under the sun is meaningless, and his point is, as the world appears to us, as it's disclosed to us, it is full of injustice and sorrow and pain, and it just seems like a purposeless, meaningless world. But if there is a yin to the yang of Ecclesiastes, if there's a book of the Bible about regaining your imagination, that book would be Revelation. Because Revelation is entirely about, despite what the world looks like, there is a God that is in control, working throughout things. This world is charged with epic purpose and epic meaning. And so we're going to just spend a few moments this morning to look at the way that Revelation does this, how it is here to maybe reignite our imaginations. And what we're going to be looking at is Revelations chapter 4 and 5. And in these sections, it's sometimes described as seeing Christ's ascent into heaven, but from God's perspective. See if you can see that. Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?" But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside it. I wept and wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. So this is the throne room of God, and we've got God on his throne, and around his throne we've got these weird animals, and we've got the elders and the saints, and everyone's gathered around them, and God in his hand, he has this throne, or he has this scroll. And when he opens the scroll, what's going to happen is that there's going to be earthquakes, and there's going to be death, and there's going to be all of this pain and hardship that's taking place. But that's not the only thing that the scroll reveals. Besides all of this destruction and hardship, we're also going to see that there's going to be the children of God clothed in white, and they're going to be protected, and they're going to be led through all of this destruction. That's what happens when this scroll gets opened up. That even though there's these hardships that we're going to experience, it's going to be taken care of. God is in control, watching out over everything. But the problem is that the scroll is sealed. And there is no one that can be found that can open this scroll, that can say, yes, things will be bad in life, but it's going to be okay. There's a good ending. No one can be found that can open this until, after weeping and weeping, John sees. Then one of the elders says to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing in the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. He had 7 horns, 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. He came and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. So you're familiar with throne room scenes. They're scattered throughout all of our mythology and our folklore and our stories. So in the campus ministry that I do work at, a few weeks ago we had a film and theology night where we watch a movie, and afterwards we have a philosophical and theological talkback, and we watched The Never-Ending Story. Have you seen that? Never-Ending Story. And there's this great scene in it, this throne room scene where everyone's kind of gathered around the great throne room of Fantasia, and someone says, who will save Fantasia? And Atreyu steps forward, and Atreyu says, I will save Fantasia. Or maybe, if you're familiar with, like in The Lord of the Rings, there's that throne room scene where you've got the throne room in Rivendell, where you've got Aragorn and Gandalf and Elrond, and they're gathered there, and they're like, who's going to take this ring to Mordor? And Frodo steps forward, and he says, I will take the ring to Mordor. And here we've got the throne room that all throne rooms are based on. And a hero steps forward as well. Who's the hero? It is the Lion of Judah. But this hero that steps forward is not someone that is about to take a quest. This is someone returning from a quest. So maybe instead picture a throne room like in Star Wars, right? Where you've got Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Chewbacca, and they walk up after blowing up that Death Star, and they get the medals put around their necks, right? At least Luke and Han do. Did you notice Chewbacca never gets a medal? A little speciesism, right? Point being, you've got the hero returning. And we know that he's returning victorious. Why? Because John's words are, this is a lamb that had been slain. Had been slain, but now lives and stands victorious. And why is he victorious? What quest has he accomplished? You know that quest, defeating sin, death, and the devil on the cross. But make it more personal. He has returned, saving you. The quest that he was on was to die for you, to live perfectly for you, and to rise victorious, proving that you are now brought back into that kingdom of God. And so, now that this Jesus is stepping forward, we finally have someone that is worthy. Who else in all the universe is worthy to say, yes, there are hardships coming, but it will be okay because we are victorious. There is a good ending in sight. Only Jesus. Only Jesus has the ability to transform a dismal future to unlock the meaning of the sufferings that we face in life. So now here's the question. Why did God give this vision to those first Christians? Persecution is rampant. Christians are dying. For the first couple decades after Paul, you had a lot of persecution coming from the Jewish community, but the Romans were pretty good at that point. They were kind of upholding the law. They were good if you kind of look in Acts, but that's not the case anymore. Now you've got Nero and Domitian on the throne, and they are killing Christians, murdering them. In fact, all of the apostles, all of them are dead, murdered at this point, except one. And he's in exile. And if you're a Christian, you might just be saying, how long with those saints up in heaven? How long, Lord? How can we possibly win? And John says, look to the Lamb. Look to the Lion of Judah. Look to the future that he says is unfolding, not as it just appears, but as you know that it actually is, because that Lamb has been victorious. He is victorious, and your future is guaranteed. And so now go bravely into this world, Christians, knowing that you are safe, knowing that this scroll now has been given to you. And now the follow-up question is, 2,000 years later, why is this still preserved for us? Why do we need to hear this scroll? Persecution is still rampant. In fact, throughout the world, there's lots of Christians still dying every day. But in our neck of the woods, it's a more subtle, more nuanced type of persecution that takes place. We don't face the types of rampant, vitriolic violence that other Christians do. It's a little bit more subtle. It's instead maybe the snuffing out of faith quietly through the equally consuming gods of excess, of money and distraction and peer pressure and embarrassment. And so maybe violent persecution is greater elsewhere in the world, but in North America, Christianity is dying fastest. And at some point, you will find yourself crying out to God, how long? How long? And that's when John says to you, look to the Lion of Judah. Look to the future that he says is unfolding. Yes, there are hardships, but we will not be defeated. Do not see life as it simply discloses itself to you, but see life as it actually is, as you know it is. That the Lion of Judah has been victorious because the Lamb has been slain and is now risen. That the victory has been won. And so we have the ability to go forward fearlessly with that scroll. And so Evangelism Day, it's about evangelism. But I think the most important thing that we can walk away from evangelism with is a reclaimed imagination. Knowing exactly what this world is like from God's perspective, from the meta-narrative of salvation that he gives us. How can you step forward fearless into this world? How in the world could Paul say this and you pray this as well? Pray for me, that whenever I speak, words may be given me so that I will fearlessly make known the mystery of the gospel. What's that mystery? It's what's in that scroll, right? That mystery of the gospel, and then Paul ends, he gives it to you too. How can you say this too? See life as it is, not as grim and meaningless and purposeless, but infused with meaning, infused with value, not as mere matter, but instead as the true spiritual warfare that's taking place, but the war that's already won, although so many are still caught in the fray. But most importantly, listen to John. Look to the Lion of Judah and the future that he says is unfolding. Yes, there will be hardships, but no, we are not defeated. See life not as it simply appears, but as it actually is. The victory is won. The Lion that had been slain stands at the throne. And so now you can go fearlessly into the future, knowing that whatever it looks like, it is going towards a good ending. And John now gives that scroll to you. Amen. Please stand.